And we are live once again. Hello and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to In Your Face. Well, before we get into this video, let me tell you all, I started to do the live stream on how to work on Project Spirit, changing the thermostat housing and stuff like that. Well, it didn't quite go as according to plan. Evidently, the iPhone, as soon as it gets just a smidgen of sunlight, it shuts off. It shut off the live stream. So we couldn't even do the live stream. So I deleted everything because I didn't know what was taken, So I shut it down. Okay? Just happens. Um, so, hey, Bert. Bert of Bert TV has joined us. Okay. He's on right now. It'll register in a moment on the phone. Yep, there it is. Okay. Um, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be some friends from Facebook joining us very soon, as soon as they get here and everything. But this is kind of an untold story we're going to get on to. The untold story of how I've learned to live with PTSD. Oh, Bert's going to make sure everybody on Facebook and Twitter know. Okay, thanks, Bert. Appreciate that, buddy. Don't forget to smash the like button. Smash it real hard. Anyhow, real quick, for those who do not know, I am everyone knows that I'm in recovery, that I'm a recovering alcoholic, and that sort of thing. Everybody and their brother knows that. Yeah, I seen it. It just popped up. But basically, some of you wonder, well, Prince Magnum, alcoholics are strange beings anyways. You kind of fit the bill of an alcoholic, and that's true to a great degree. I do. But some people kind of scratch their heads like this, they're like, you really shot through the bad part of your alcoholism in a real hurry. How's that possible? Well, that's because I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Or when I was diagnosed, it was post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I've told this story kind of before here on the channel, but I've never went into this depth. And there was always this severe fear that my mom would one day see that video. And I have decided that I'm going to throw caution to the wind and tell you how I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, and how I've learned to live with it. Because I don't go to therapy, and there's really no medication for it. The therapy on this stuff is actually very crude still. And I know right now, Bert of Bert TV will also vouch for this. He'll vouch for this. There is no real cure. There's no real way to treat it. Ask any Vietnam veteran, they'll tell you that. Anyhow. Got to have my diet soda today. Normally it's coffee in these videos, but hey, whatever. Anyhow, in getting with this story, there's also some of my old friends from Facebook that do not know the whole story. Yeah, you can't medicate it. Anyhow, a lot of people don't know the whole story. Way back when I was, just growing up, we're talking the 1980s, we started hearing about, kids that were being taken away because there was child abuse in the home. Well, here in Missouri, that was actually a joke. Okay, now today they'll take your kids away for sneezing sideways in their direction. Okay, they'll take your kids away. So we went from one extreme to the next. Which, by the way, junkies that are still, doing heavy drugs can get their kids back, but those that speak out against the government can't. But that's another subject for another time. All I will say is, if you go back a few videos, you'll find out that I have already put in my run for the Democratic. Basically, I've announced that I'm running for presidency as a Democrat. But anyhow, onward and upward. PTSD. I lived in a home where there was abuse. Okay, it started off with my dad, which I found out later what was happening to poor dad. Okay, My dad was living with my mother, who was not the ideal wife. We'll say it that way. I think that's fair. And she basically, wasn't the ideal wife, and he was losing his mind. Basically, imagine, if you will, there was a lot of times that mom was, had a boyfriend on the side, and you know, yeah, Bert TV is actually putting stuff in what he's went through himself. So if you were able to view if you're able to view that here on, the when you're doing the playback, if you can view that, be sure to check what Bert TV is actually saying. But anyhow, so Dad was losing his mind, and you know he wasn't a very sane person in those days. It actually left him probably so emotionally scarred. That's probably why we don't talk now. Um, so because of this, and because of the abuse that I went through as a kid, Dad starting off abusing me. To give you an idea, um, I can still, there was a day that my brother and I got into it, and Dad decided that I was the one at fault. And instead of, giving me a good butt whooping like I deserved, belt, switch, something like that, no. He decided that a socket wrench across the knee would sound really good. Now, if you anybody who knows, I've got bony knees, and if you've ever heard the sound of something metallic hitting bone, you'll never forget that sound. Okay, you will never forget that sound. Um, I can, even thinking about it now, it makes my right knee hurt. It freaking hurts, just thinking about that. So I lived with that sort of stuff as a kid, you know. By the time 11, I was 11, it came around, and Dad finally had caught Mom red-handed, if you will, in the middle of an affair, and he asked for a divorce then, and Mom was pissed off about it. She was really pissed. And because for years I did look like my dad, it turned into where I suffered the brunt of Mom's abuse. Mom kind of held back for some years, and at the last minute, I mean, she still did her part when she could, but then at the last minute, she flipped it around, and I took full force of all of it. Okay. And I guess because for years I looked like my dad. As a matter of fact, there's some of my very old friends from Facebook that know my dad, know him very well. My good buddy T-Bone knows my dad, okay? Knows him very well, okay? And we used to look a lot alike for many years. So Dad was very abusive in those days. And, when that was taken away, Mom turned it on. At this point, basically as far back as I can remember, all the way up until 1991, it was like that. I'm sorry, yeah, 1991. Um, so at the age well, I'm sorry, it would have been 1990 when Mom and Dad split up. I was 11 years old, sixth grade, middle school, and those that remember that far back remember that all of a sudden one day I wasn't there. That's what happened. It all came to a head. So here I was, I'm living at my grandmother's house with my mom, and the abuse starts again. She's with her live-in boyfriend, and I went off the deep end and had to be hospitalized for the very first time ever. The very first time ever I was hospitalized, it was at St. Anthony's Hospital, Highland Adolescent Center. And actually, all through my teen years, I've visited there a total of 3 times. The first time I was there, um, I was there for numerous attempts at suicide. Love you, brother. I was there for numerous attempts at suicide, and most people would be shocked. Okay, my mother had turned the tables on me and everything, and you know, now I was taking the brunt of the abuse, and a lot of people really can't believe that. It's like, wow, you lived through that. I got out with a prescription of Prozac, and then when Mom and her live-in boyfriend got our first place, it was a house out there in Union, Missouri. And for those who remember me from Union, Missouri, will know they're like, well, he was always kind of strange. Well, this is why. This is what happened. Um, I started living with, Mom's abusive live-in boyfriend, Clay. And for the record, I know that even saying this could get me in a lot of trouble, but I don't think there's a prosecutor in the world that will fault me for this. If I ever see that man, I'm going to do him serious harm because of the things that he did to me. Basically, by the time I was 12, I had a little brother named Justin, and Clay he was 6 months old, and Clay was already trying to beat on him. And I took numerous beatings for that boy. Took numerous beatings for that boy. My home life had become a war zone, if you will. Any moment, action could break out. And I might have to be defending myself or defending one of my little brothers against a man who was more than twice my size. Sorry, Bert. I'm sorry I'm breaking up. I don't know why. It seems like it's doing fine here, but I guess it's breaking up where you're at. Um, in a nutshell, when this all happened, I took a few beatings for my brother Justin. Eventually, took a beating for my brother Travis. Mom and Dad were going through a divorce, and I had to be put back in the hospital because my rage just could not control it. Yeah, I just couldn't control my rage anymore. And the thing of it is that um, that rage, I had to be put back in. And every time they put me back in the hospital, um, they'd pump me full of medication. I think at one point I was even on Thorazine. And if any of you all know what Thorazine does, it's scary. Yeah, I slept a lot. Um, it was just shy of the Thorazine shuffle. Anyhow, what ended up happening is by the time I was 16, constantly living in fear, um, my dad offered to take me out of there. And I realized that what had happened to Dad, I was kind of experiencing, basically because my mom had a serious hatred for my dad. For the first time ever, I'm going to just openly say this. Not only was my mother physically abusive, uh, my mother was very physically abusive. She was extremely mentally abusive. Um, you'll have to excuse me. It's a little hard to talk about this even after all this time. Let me check time. Oh, I better hurry up with this live stream. I got to get my butt out the door to Laz's Bar and Grill. I remember a time that my mother was downstairs talking to my grandma, and I started coming downstairs to get a soda, and I happened to hear them talk, and I just, for whatever reason, I stopped at, you know, in the old house where my grandma and grandpa lived. I came to kind of like the bottom of the stairs, and right around this real small hallway was the kitchen. Well, when I stopped at the bottom of the stairs, I happened to hear them talking, and I just listened, and I overheard my mom say I could never get close to, my son, me, because he looks too much like his dad. My grandmother chewed her out. Imagine me hearing that at the age of, I think I was like 12, 13. I couldn't believe it. You know, I just came from, an abusive father and my own mother who, didn't even want me, because I looked like my dad. To my mom, I was a paycheck. every month. A way to stick it to my dad. Sorry about that. Princess Faye's trying to get through. This live stream is going to end up being a bust because, you know, that's just how it is. Wives, wives. I love my wife. I love my wife, but, you know, it's bad timing. Why does the phone ring while you're in the shower? you know, anyhow, um, you know what? Fuck it. We'll just delete this. Okay. We'll get to that question here just shortly, Bert. We're back again. Princess Faye just had to call. Let me know she's going to be leaving work here in the next few minutes. Anyhow, onward and upward. Mom, basically said she didn't really want anything to do with me. And that stuck in my craw for a long time. So when I told the story where I snapped and was ready to, to fight my mom's live-in boyfriend, was telling her off when I had my first few drinks. Yeah, my first drunk at 14, that's why. That's why I was that way. Because all that alcohol brought that up. Okay? So it had already, the groundwork for what was yet to come was already being laid. Now, talking about Laz's Bar and Grill that I'm going to be at. Hey, what's going on, Charlie? Hey, it's good to see you, buddy. Well, sort of. It's good that you get to see me, I guess is the best way to put it. But talking about Laz's Bar and Grill, I remember at the age of 14, I was in the choir. I loved high school choir. I love the high school choir, and I love music because, if you will, every time you all see me on stage, I got to throw this in there. Every time you all see me on stage, I used to have this old dual cassette player, and I would put in cassettes of my favorite band, Kiss, and I would sing along to the songs. And I did this even at the age of 14. I did this for years, okay? And I would put it up there on top of this little narrow dresser, and I would pop the cassette tapes in, and this will all tie into the story. And I would, start, playing the music, and I would sing along with the cassettes. And as I would be singing along with the cassettes, the music, basically I would almost imagine that on the other side of the cassette player would be this huge auditorium of people there to listen to me sing. I did this a lot because it was the only safe place. Well, at the age of 14, my mom came in. She's like, God, you suck. Maybe I should pull you out of the choir. But I swear to God, I'm going to be the best rock and roll singer that anybody has ever heard. Asking the question why I never made it famous. That was my response. Okay. So when all of you come to Laz's Bar and Grill later on tonight and you see me on stage singing, imagine, if you will, here I'm going to be 39 in August as I'm making this video. Every time all of you come to see me and you cheer and root me on, I get a little piece of that something my mom took away from me at the age of 14, every time. So when you guys cheer and hoop and holler for me, you guys really do not know how much that means the world to me. Okay, it means everything to me. So I lived like this. At work, most people don't know this. I can't even do dishes because my mom used to like to make me do the dishes. And if she didn't think I was doing it right, it was not uncommon for her to kind of slap me around a little bit. So every time I get there by the sink to try to do dishes at work, I actually start reliving those moments. This is part of the problem with PTSD. So by the age of 16, Dad's offering to take me out of there. Mom gets the court papers, and she starts in on my brother and I. My brother, who served in the U.S. Army, a couple of tours. He served in Afghanistan and Iraq. Basically, she started taking it out on us. What would be a great example? That day that she got the court papers, she took us all out to eat. Well, she took all the other kids out to eat, and my brother and I we were brought something out to the truck. We weren't allowed to sit with the family. Um, oh, you're gonna catch it on the playback. It's breaking up. I think it's breaking up on your end, brother. um, so I had to experience that. And I told my brother I was going to get us out of that. I was going to get him out of that mess. I couldn't live up to that promise, though. Um, Instead, what happened was um, I was going to do something very horrible, but I was stopped before I could do it. And I was put back in St. Anthony's Highland Adolescent Center. My mom had them believing I was the world's worst kid, that I was rebellious, that I was probably doing this, doing that, and everything else under the sun. And in reality, it was just that I had had my belly full. I mean, I couldn't live like that anymore. Um, when everybody else was, um, you know, having fun and doing what teenagers do, I was living day by day, wondering if I was going to have another fist fight, or if I was going to have to fight my way out of a situation, or if I was going to be alive the next day. Because, mom's live-in boyfriend was always threatening to get into a fist fight with me. So dad came in and offered to take me out. Mom gets court papers, and it was it was rough. It was rough. So I get put back in the hospital. They're not listening to me because of what my mom's telling them. She abandoned me in that hospital. My dad was the one who came to rescue me. And my dad had to argue with the administrator. Well, he didn't argue with I take that back. I'm sorry. He didn't have to argue with that administrator. He ended up arguing with one of the nurses there. And in the end, the administrator had to be called in, and they sat me down and said, Prince Magnum, what do you want to do? What do you want? And I said, I want to get out of here. I want to go home. But more than anything, I just want people to listen to me. I just want them to listen. I'm not lying about this. Why would anyone lie about something like this? And they did just that. And finally, mom basically signed the paperwork to let me go home with my dad. So people who were in Arcadia Valley High School, when you guys seen me come in at the age of 16, I had just come freshly from a mental hospital. And while I was there, they diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress syndrome, which today we know as post-traumatic stress disorder, better known as PTSD. My counselor looked right at my dad and said, your son is coming home with post-traumatic stress disorder. He's going to be in the world that at that time it was kind of unheard. Today it's a little bit more common than it used to be, mainly because we have a lot of veterans coming home from war zones. But back then, anyone outside of the military is now coming home. The fact that they live with PTSD. Back then, a civilian having it was almost unheard of. And she said, he lived with so much abuse for so long, your son will never be the same again. He's never going to be, he's never going to have an exactly normal life because of this. So unfortunately, your son coming home, you're going to be treating him just like a Vietnam veteran. That was what we had back then. So for those who do not know, who know me on Facebook, who's going to be watching the playback, you actually was sitting next to someone, and like my good buddy Dan, when I was helping you with algebra class, you were actually the person who was tutoring you through algebra. Believe it or not, if was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and you never knew it. Um, Inside, I was all tore up. So back then, there's old stories where I got up in front of the high school and would sing the song by Kiss, "Calling Dr. Love," which I will be performing tonight if Dan is there. Um, so I lived with that. And so nobody really knew this. And it took me many years to get over, you know, at the age of 21, the gloves came off. And when I would start drinking, you would drink like me if you had a mother that didn't love you. Okay. And I was stuck with that fact. Okay. That my mother at that time did not really care for me. Okay. And there was actual days where, when I first tried to, wow, that's quite a bit there, brother. Um, I, good old Charlie just told me that he used, how much he used. That's quite a bit. Um, I drank for many years because in my head, if you had a mom like me, and what it was numbing the fact that I suffered from this. I would have severe flashbacks. I remember having flashbacks, and I would try to drink those flashbacks away, uh, crying a lot of times behind closed doors. If that if you had a mom like me, because I was stuck with those memories. The one thing that hurts with PTSD is the flashbacks and the memories. I remember nearly attacking a robotic Santa Claus one Christmas because I thought, just briefly, for a brief moment, it was my mom out of the corner of my eye because he was waving like this, and I almost attacked it because I thought that it was my mom about to hit me. Um, and I got back to work and I started. I did stupid stuff while I drank, but I a lot of it is that I was just trying to numb. I would get drunk to numb the effects of the horrible memories and my PTSD, and then I would do stupid stuff. So for me, it was difficult. Oh, let me stop for a brief moment. Okay. Um, a good question. A good question. Thank you, Christian, for that question. Do I think that medical marijuana would help PTSD? Yes and no. Okay. I'm of two minds of this. And you'll have to understand there's a gray area. Medical marijuana, and for the record, I hate getting drug into the conversation of marijuana because I have some very strict thoughts on it. Um, and in a second, let me clarify that first, okay? Christian, let me clarify my viewpoint on marijuana before I answer that question, okay? Marijuana, I believe, is a medicine. Okay, I believe that it does actually help in the medical field. Um, I'm actually retired as a certified nurse's aide, certified med tech with insulin certification. I had 13 years in the medical field. My last couple of years in the medical field, I started seeing the THC pills show up. Now, it's listed as a Schedule II narcotic, okay? And for those who do not know, a Schedule II narcotic is right up there with Dilaudid, morphine, things like that. And most insurance companies will not allow a med tech to give that medication. Where I was at, it was a gray area. So I got to give it to Alzheimer's patients. What we found was that Alzheimer's patients that did not remember that it was time to eat, they would get the munchies, if you will, and they could eat and live a somewhat normal life because there's really no normal life with Alzheimer's, okay? So do I think that that marijuana as a medication, by far, yes, yes. I am behind that 100% because I have seen up close and personal the benefits of marijuana as a medication. Do I think people should be smoking it as a form of medication? Well, let's keep the withdrawal. Well, let's keep it the side effects, because there are side effects that people don't realize with marijuana. There are severe side effects that marijuana does bring on. No, you can't OD on it per se, but there are severe side effects, okay, that do come on. And maybe in an up and coming In Your Face, we'll talk about that more, okay? But do I think that marijuana should be legal as for recreational use like alcohol? And the answer is no. No. Because of the side effects that do come with it. And yes, no matter what you hear, it is addictive. And the last thing we need to do is legalize something that is that potentially dangerous, that the real nasty stuff is being kept from the public. As a matter of fact, in that up and coming episode of In Your Face, we will talk about that. Again, the active ingredient in THC, that's the problem, because there are side effects with it. When you're dealing with Alzheimer's, a doctor has to weigh that out. That's why I think, yes, as medication, no, not for recreational, because it is, okay, I'll just say it real quickly. THC likes fat cells, and what it likes to do is, I'll say it like this. It is okay to call someone a fathead, because the closest thing in our body that resembles brain cells is fat tissue. And THC likes fat tissue. And what it does is it gets in between the synapses of the brain, and with prolonged use of THC, could mess with the signals that goes between the synapses of the brain. Basically, a person could get a contact high, a severe contact high, without actually touching the stuff. And imagine you're going down the road, and all of a sudden you have an effect of euphoria with your kids in the back of the car. And now you're operating a motor vehicle under the influence, whether you want to or not. On top of that, it makes you extremely prone to infections. Highly prone to infections. So you're going to be sick an awful lot on this stuff. So even if it's smokeless, there's still a potential chance that it's harmful. If you will, just because it's from the ground doesn't necessarily make it sound. Basically, the way I will say it, so is nightshade. Okay? You're going to go out and no. But in the case of Alzheimer's and dementia and severe cases that it is terminal, if you will, you have to take that into consideration. Now, to answer the question, at a roundabout it, do I think that it would help PTSD? It depends on the case. Is the person in recovery from alcohol or drugs? Okay? I'll tell you what, because you're asking all the right questions that I keep trying to avoid the subject here on In Your Face. Christian, I'll tell you what, I want you to hold me to this. I want you to hold this to me. Go to my Twitter account, and I want you to hold me to this. I'm going to do that In Your Face. I'm going to do that one just for you, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff that's not being talked about marijuana that needs to be talked about. And I want to do that for you. I want to make that right now at 8:14 p.m. Central Standard Time. right here in Bonne Terre, Missouri. I make you that promise, Christian. I will do that video just for you to answer all those questions. Okay? Because I'm going to just say it briefly. If the government is willing to legalize something that's potentially dangerous, there's a motive behind it. Don't you fall for it. Okay? That being said, do I think that medical marijuana would help PTSD? Someone like myself, not at all. Because I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous with over 12 years of sobriety. And the problem is that if I start doing anything that creates an effect of euphoria, I will, it's a relapse, even under doctor's orders in this case. And I look forward to doing the video for you. In this particular case, I would not do well because eventually I will start drinking alcohol again. And that is a bad thing because then I'm no longer facing my problems. I'm hiding behind the booze, and then the problems just get worse. Okay. So in that regard, marijuana would not help me. Okay. And I would fight that. I would fight a doctor on that. I would not take it. Okay. I would rather live with my PTSD. I would rather live with the flashbacks rather than go back to that life again. Real quick, because I do need to jump in the shower and get ready to go to Laz's Bar and Grill. If you're wondering how in the world I do that, check out the last live stream on playback, and I'll tell you, and it tells you all about that. How I'm able to go into bars being sober this many years. It's under Sober Talk, going into slippery places, okay? But I lived, it was actually sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous that taught me how to live with the flashbacks. I remember times that I would have flashbacks and with my two daughters in the bedroom taking a nap, and I'd have a Turkish Mauser fully loaded with 8x57 millimeter cartridges at the door of my apartment, thinking that I'd hear a loud noise, and I thought my mom was going to come in and hurt my daughters. And I'd be in the middle of a flashback, and I had the rifle pointed at the door. Okay? Because I was scared for my daughters. I remember having going into work the next day and crying on the shoulders of my charge nurse, telling her about it. How embarrassing it was. No one around, but it was embarrassing. A lot of people who suffer from PTSD, they're embarrassed about it. This is why a lot of veterans won't even talk about it, reliving that stuff. I'm open and honest about it because mine's through child abuse. And because of it, I want the word to get out there that it's still happening. And that our government is not doing what's necessary to get the children out of those homes and keep them away from that. The real victims like myself. So I'm open and honest about it. But every day I still live with PTSD. It wasn't too long ago, and I know he didn't mean any harm, and I think the world of him. My buddy T-Bone jumped around a corner and scared me. It kind of startled me, and I was cleaning a window when he did it, and he was on the other side of the window pane, and I nearly put my fist through that window, and I could have lost my job over that if it had happened, and if I'd actually done it, and it's kind of embarrassing because I was actually kind of flipped out. I was kind of freaked out for the rest of the day, and I know he didn't mean any harm. And he never has to apologize for that because he was just being a good buddy and playing around and joking. And he totally forgot about it. And I love him to pieces. T-Bone, I love you, brother. Honestly, my first two daughters, I was really screwing up bad. I was screwing up really bad. And a lot of that was the alcoholism. With my son, Prince Python, my daughter Angel Moon, and Dax. Well, with Dax, I didn't even get a chance. Um, eh, I was I struggled with them, but what parent doesn't struggle with a child? I mean, that's the reality of it. Okay, and I was wrongfully accused of child abuse. Wrongfully accused. Okay, they they twisted everything they possibly could, and in the end, what it really was, my son. Oh, Princess Faye just came home. My son was convinced by my mother to make the story sound worse than what it was. Okay, and then there was a detective that jumped on this case, Detective Steve Sykes, who I've not forgotten. I got a special mini movie coming out that's going to show how great the Washington Police Department is. And jumped on that case. By the way, this guy's such a great detective, he can't find the handle on a coffee cup. And then it just spiraled downward, okay? Because I speak out against the government. And the government doesn't like that. So they just kept taking my kids away, okay? So that, honestly, I mean, people trust me with their kids, okay? A lot of people trust me with their kids. To go along with that, the video, do-it-yourself budget hot rodding, a birthday to remember. I know the gal very well. She trusted me with her 14-year-old son. Okay, watch the video after this one. I promise you, you will be amazed. People trust me with their kids. When I was in Fredericktown, I had a young lady tell me, "I wish you were my dad because my dad isn't around. I wish you were my dad." And I said, "Sweetie, I'm here for you. If you need me, I'm here for you. You call me anytime, any place, anywhere. I'm there for you." We have a lot of young ones that do that today. A lot of young ones. So I guess I'm not that bad at fatherhood, really. I just haven't been given the true opportunity in sobriety. For the record, with my son, Prince Python, I was there for a long while. I was a single dad. Living with PTSD and all this other stuff, you know. So that's where it really is. You know, I've learned to live with what I have. Sometimes you're not given it. You're not in life. You're not dealt a fair, a fair hand. You got to do what you can do, like a good poker player, or in my case, it was always blackjack, or But nowadays, we've learned that I know how to. You know, if you watch that video where I was doing card tricks at Bert's place, now I can make the deck do what I want it to do. You know, and that's just the end result of, today I live my life to the fullest. I still live with PTSD. My poor wife has to live with the fact that her husband could have a flip out at any moment. Given the right situation, I could have to take an ambulance ride to the hospital, over PTSD. And it has gotten that bad before. We got into a big spat, and the next thing I know, I can't breathe. I'm on the floor freaking out. Don't know where I'm at, can't remember my name. Horrible. I still wake up in the middle of the night, don't know where I'm at, what's going on. Won't even remember my name. All I remember is that I'm scared. Horrible living that way. But it was Vietnam veterans and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that saved my life. I would have started drinking again if it hadn't been for them, So if there are any veterans ever watching this video, thank you all so much for everything that you do, because a lot of you come home and you serve in another capacity that goes beyond words. If it wasn't for our veterans, Prince Magnum, me, I would not be here today. So, real quick, I do need to start getting myself ready to be at Laz's Bar and Grill. What we're going to do, is there's a chance the live stream may not work. So what we'll do is we'll record on the phone and immediately upload that video to YouTube. And then we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep making them. And we're going to make as many times as I get on that stage, is as many videos as you will see. So if I screw up, oh well, you guys are going to get, you're going to see it as it's been seen. So if you can't be there, you're still going to be there with me. You know, that's what if you're a member of the Maverick Nation, you guys really keep me going some days, because some days it's tough. Living like, you know, being an alcoholic, living with PTSD, being a guy who knows what our government is like, being Native American and all that, right there. I'm Native American and living and still have to deal with racism against Native Americans from our government and things like that. I live with it every day. But you know what? It's the Maverick Nation that makes it possible for me to get up each day, go out there to Project Spirit, smile really big. Brother, I'm just going to say something for you. No, life doesn't distribute opportunity very fairly. You make your opportunity. Life isn't fair. But as good old sober man used to tell me, no, life isn't fair. If you want fair, that's where you take your prize pig to win a blue ribbon. That's fair. Life isn't. You make it what you want. You have two options in life. You can live your life in heaven, or you can live your life in hell. I choose to live my life in heaven every day. And I'm not even Christian. Christian religious, not you, brother. I make each day as it comes, even despite everything that I've been through. Prince Magnum, how can you smile so much? Because every day above ground is a good day. Plain and simple. And I got a lot of love to give to this world. I know, that's what I said. That's why I said I'm not you, but you know, you know, I was play on you know, words there, brother. I know that's your name. I actually wear corrective glasses, and I have to every once in a while. And the sunglasses is out of respect for Alcoholics Anonymous, so you all don't see my face. It's just a respect for AA. Because we're supposed to remain anonymous at the press, at the level of press, radio, and film, and internet these days. We amended that. It is supposed to include internet. And out of respect for Alcoholics Anonymous, that's why I don't use my real name. Sometimes it squeaks in there, and you could end up hearing that tonight in one of the videos. And I'm okay with that, but you'll only hear my first name. So I'm still within AA tradition, you know. But yeah, so that's why every once in a while you see me lean down. I'm reading the chat and trying to answer some of the questions too, while still trying to do it. Because again, it's you, the members of the Maverick Nation, that you guys may. Shoot, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd actually sold Project Spirit some time back. I had a chance to get a really awesome car. I love you, brother. I love you. Oh my gosh, you're awesome. That's all right. I'm actually a junior because my parents named me after my dad, and I oftentimes tease saying, "What? You had no originality? You know, come on, can you be a little bit more creative?" One of them things. One of them things. You know, so that's where we're at on this. You know, again, I got to get my ass in the shower. You know, I got so I can start getting out there because I want to spend some time with the Maverick Nation, with all of you, as much as I possibly can. At some point, I'm going to have to spend some time in my private life with Princess Faye, but we got a whole lifetime ahead of us to do that, unless she decides to run off with the circus clown or something like that, and Then change your name to Zuzu Pedals or something shit like that. Anyhow. Oh, brother, there's tons of life lessons. If you will, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what we're going to do, because, you know, you've thrown a lot of good questions out there, and I'm sure you've got a ton more. You probably got a ton more. Um, what we're going to do is, if you watch this live stream, I want you to go, if people still keep email nowadays, go, actually, there is a way to get in touch with me on Facebook, okay? Bert constantly posts stuff for the Prince Magnum channel on his Facebook page, and you'll be able to spot it. So if you go to Bert Wurtenberg, you'll know it because he advertises Bert TV there, and you'll be able to spot me pretty quickly. Because who else drives a 1975 Ford Maverick sitting on the hood wearing a Punisher t-shirt? And, you know, that's all that. You'll be able to spot me right away because we're closely linked on Facebook. Get in touch with me through Facebook, and, you know, shoot me a big giant, you know, something that I can spot, because unfortunately my Facebook is so just convoluted right now, and I'm still dealing with, you know, like a bunch of people wanting to be friends with me. Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I'm still dealing with a lot. I'm still dealing with a lot of friend requests because of one comment. A lot of ladies around the world thought a man who spoke that way was pretty awesome. If not, get in touch with me at my Twitter account, Magnum-Prince at Twitter. Get in touch with me. I'll keep an eye out. I'll make sure that you have my phone number, and we'll turn on the camera, and we'll record it. I'll turn it into a video of what we talk about that day. You can ask me all the questions you want, okay? And that sort of thing. And you're more than welcome to ask me all the questions you want all day long. I'll answer them. It'll be my pleasure, and we'll do a video on it. It'll be an opportunity for you to see how life affects us in sometimes positive ways, despite the negative. Okay? So, all right. Now, I really do got to end this live stream, guys. Again, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and check out my Patreon account. I have some really awesome stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you one of the things that's in the box. Maybe you or someone you know can use it. Maybe they can use it. I have a pocket-size book, self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous, what we call the Big Book. It's a pocket size that contains the first 164 pages of the Big Book. What taught me how to get sober? Maybe you or someone you know has, you know, that's one of the things that's actually in the box, in that care package. So if you're the one who donates the most for the Prince Magnum channel, you will be receiving that particular item in that box, and I will even autograph it myself. Okay? It'll be an autographed copy of the book, self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous, what we call it in AA, the Big Book. That will be included. It's already set aside. I can also tell you there's some Summit Racing stickers that I got when I was at the Azalea Festival this year. Who knows what else I might put in there. Plenty of time between now and August the 7th. So whoever wins, you know, that'll be the giveaway. I can only do one right now. Maybe as the channel gets bigger. And let's see. If you're not subscribed to the Prince Magnum channel, please do so. Please do so. Hit the bell icon for this video. Looks like quite a few people already have. Thank you all so much. And be sure to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we do a live stream or I upload a brand new video. Also, for all of you, get out there and work on a project. Don't care what it is. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. Do something special for them, guys. And as always, for all of you out there, no matter what's happening in your life, If no one out there has told you that they love you, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.